Next up on the broadcast, former U.S. Attorney General, former U.S. Senator, and now U.S. Senate candidate Jeff Sessions is in studio with us. Welcome to Capitol Journal.
Don, good to be with you.
It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Yeah.
You've been out and about in the state now since making your big announcement that you would be seeking your former U.S. Senate again. Let's talk about the reception. What have you heard from folks so far?
People are great. I've been traveling all over the state, seen a lot of people. You get those smiles and thumbs up. It's kind of comforting and it feels good. I believe that this state's values are good values, the right values for America. I believe Donald Trump and his administration have advanced those, like a lawful system of immigration, defend American manufacturing against China trade and unfair practices. Maybe it's time for us to be more careful about how many troops we put in dangerous areas of the globe. The president's raised those. I've agreed with all of those and was talking about those issues before he came on the scene. I was proud to be the first person to endorse him and push for his election, and he's did what he promised. You know, I mean, he has done what he promised. The economy is booming and we got a lot of good things happening. So I believe at this point in time in history that I would be able to contribute more to advancing that agenda than a new person in the Senate. I've been doing it before. I am passionately committed to it. It's what I've given my life to. I think we have an opportunity to do something special. Maybe a window. If we don't get it, we will regret it for a long time.
You have said since announcing that you felt even current Republicans in Congress could do a better job in supporting the president's agenda.
You know, they're not passionate enough. They're not really pushing enough, in my view. They can have disagreements about this or that, but I really think we've got to urge the Republicans to be more forceful. We could create a majority in this country that could sustain itself for a long time if we will welcome the voters that Donald Trump brought into the party and brought into his election. Make sure that we are hearing their concerns. You know, half America makes below $55,000 a year. Under President Trump, for the first time in 20 years, we have seen an increase in wages above inflation, but not for 20 years. And people worry about where they're going to get the money to buy a set of tires for the old car, or vacation. 40% of Americans didn't take a vacation last year because they couldn't afford it. And so I guess what I'm saying is a party that wants to lead America has got to communicate with everybody, not just the wealthy.
Your strained relationship with the president is well documented. In announcing your campaign a couple of weeks ago, you released a video and then you appeared on a cable news network that night, one that many regard as the president's favorite cable news network. And it's been raised since then that maybe you were speaking directly to the president initially in announcing your plans to seek this office again and seeking his support. Was that your intention?
Well, I want his support. I would love to have it. I'm going to be his #1 supporter in the Senate if I go back, and I was before I left to go become Attorney General, so I would like that. But really, President Trump is very popular in Alabama. He is advancing the values that most Americans believe in. They're tired of political correctness. They're tired of the status quo. We elected someone to disrupt, to push back, fight back, and he's done that. And so I want the people of Alabama to know that I am the same person I was before. I'm not part of the swamp. I was the most probably outspoken advocate for, I think, common values of the American people in the Senate. Certainly one of the best. And I want to continue that because we have this rare opportunity. I believe President Trump will be reelected. And, you know, you usually have a couple of 3 years in a president's final term to really get some things done. And I can hit the ground running, and I won't be a potted plant. I'll be an advocate for what we believe in. And I think I can contribute to Alabama and to the country.
When you say you won't be a potted plant, what do you mean when you say that?
Well, I mean, people go to Washington and they go along and they're quiet and they're not out there. But right now we need some people who will speak out, who can go on the network news and defend what we're doing and explain why it's good and decent and right to have a lawful system of immigration, not lawlessness. why it's all right to defend America's interest in trading against countries that cheat and don't play by the rules, and why we've got to push back, we've got to stand up and defend our interests. We are a nation. We have borders. We have a constitution. And we have every right and moral responsibility, really, to defend those borders and the integrity of our constitutional order.
Do you see a scenario where you and the president might mend political fences? So
oh, I hope so. You know, he's done that before, and he can get very strong, and that would be my hope and goal. But we'll be partners in the sense of advancing the same agenda. That I'm confident of. It's just, you know, I asked people in Alabama and America to vote for him. I was the first one. I put on that hat in Huntsville, Alabama, and I said, this is the man that's going to deliver for us. A lot of people didn't think he would. They thought he was saying one thing politically, but maybe would not when he got elected. But I am so proud that he's honored that commitment. I feel like that my recommendation to the people of America was good, and it's helped us win this election. I don't think anyone else would have won as President Trump has done. So he's a disruptor. He's aggressive. He pushes hard, but things are going in the right direction, and we need to keep it going.
The split in your relationship with the president obviously goes back to the Russia probe in which you were accused as Attorney General. The president was not pleased with that decision. He's been very vocal about that numerous times. Do you have any regrets looking back on the decision you made to recuse?
You know, we did what we could, did what I felt was the right thing to do, and that's all I know to do. That's the way I've lived my life, and you try to do that. We want to help the president in every way the Attorney General can, and we did, on religious freedom, on reducing regulations, on reducing federal government takeovers and consent decrees, on helping him select the best group of judges I think any president has ever nominated. And it's so important. So we had so many harmonious relationships that worked so good. And so I hope we can get past this. I think we can. I believe we will.
You mentioned that Alabama is a deeply Trump-supporting state. Do you worry at all that voters can or cannot separate their loyalty to Trump versus their affection for you in this Senate race?
I think we'll just have to talk about it openly and directly to the people of Alabama, honestly, about where we are and who can be the most effective advocate for President Trump's agenda. I'm confident that I can do that. I'll tell you what, go back and look where the others were when I was traveling with him, when I was at the debates with him, when I flew to Mexico with him and on the plane with him and introduced him and was one of the nominators at the Republican convention of Donald Trump. I've been with him. A lot of others are talking today how strong they were, but maybe not when it counted.
Congressman Bradley Byrne, who's one of your opponents for the U.S. Senate, said that in his recent meeting with Trump in Tuscaloosa that the president indicated he wasn't exactly pleased that you had gotten into the Senate race. Does that bother you at all?
Well, he also said he'd let the people of Alabama decide. So it did Donald Trump Jr. in Birmingham, said the people of Alabama will decide this matter. Vice President Pence said that. So I think as this campaign goes along, they will feel even more comfortable with my candidacy, because I don't want to see it fail. I don't want to see what he has advocated, what I've been advocating, fail. We've made great progress. We need to keep that progress going. The country is going in the right direction. The economy is really booming. The stock market hit record highs. Wages are beginning to go up for a change. And so I'm excited about that. But there are hostile forces out there. I mean, they don't like me. They don't want me coming back to the Senate. They don't like President Trump. They hate President Trump. And they bring up the Russia probe failed to produce what they thought it would produce, what they told us it would produce. Now they're taking a phone call and trying to create that into an impeachable offense. And it's just not. This is an abuse of the impeachment power. Congress, some of our Democratic colleagues, I urge them that don't go down this road. You're setting a precedent that will be dangerous for this country. It's not the right thing to do. This is not an impeachable offense. The Senate is not going to vote to impeach, and we just shouldn't do it. It's wrong. But they've committed. They've gone so far down the road, they don't want to admit it, they shouldn't go forward. But they have to. You just have to bite the bullet sometimes and do the right thing. So maybe enough Democratic congressmen will understand that and do the right thing. But most people are predicting they won't, I must admit.
I want to come back to the impeachment, but one more question concerning your campaign, and that is being an 11th hour declarer, so to speak. I think you entered the race the night before the qualifying deadline. Was it something you mulled until the very last minute? Or?
Well, I had given it thought, and I was asked a month or two before that to reevaluate. Friends and people asked me to look at it, and I gave it a lot of thought. Talked to my wife,
of course,
like I ask her every day for a week. Are you sure you're okay with this? And she said yes, and our children are supportive. So, but I felt in my own heart, and the voters of Alabama will decide. This is their seat, not mine. It's not the president's, it's not mine, for sure. And so we're going to take our case to the Alabama people, that I can hit the ground running, that I can do more with this window of opportunity to advance what we believe in, what I've always fought for tenaciously. I've not gone wobbly on the people of Alabama. I've stood for those values. I believe in them. And I will continue to do so, and I think that I can be a very effective voice, perhaps more than a new senator could be.
Some of your opponents have pointed out your tumultuous relationship with the president, and that seems to be what could become a talking point in this campaign. Does that concern you at all?
Well, I think the people who weren't nearly as supportive of President Trump as I was when this campaign went forward will try to make that, but I don't think they can sustain that. I don't really think they can. I would just urge the people of Alabama to remember who first endorsed President Trump, who advanced his agenda even before that, who was delighted, thrilled, and so pleased to see a strong candidate advancing our values. And that's why I endorsed him, and he's continued to do it. He's not wimped out on us. He's been strong and aggressive, and so I want to help him.
During the height of the controversy between you and the president, there were many who were looking at you closely and I guess waiting for the other shoe to drop, for you to unload on the president after he had publicly unloaded on you so much. But you never did that. You have remained loyal to the president throughout all of this controversy. Was that a tough thing to endure?
Well, sometimes you want to explain yourself, but look, I worked for him. I served at his pleasure. If he wanted a new attorney general, as soon as he asked me, I was gone. I owe him respect and loyalty. I believed in him. I think it's not good to leave an administration and then start talking bad about it, trying to make yourself look good. For me, it was an act of service. And I'm telling you, if you look at what we did in the Attorney General's office, the law enforcement community, how happy they were with what I did, the religious community, when we defended the free exercise of religion that's in our Constitution that was being eroded by the previous administration, we reduced regulations, we defended free speech all over the country, and I'm still making some speeches in some hostile environments where it's amazing that college students today seem to think they can shut down mainstream Republican voices on a college campus. It's just stunning. It's an unhealthy thing. So we got some dangers out there, culturally, family, religious values, moral values. We cannot allow that to be eroded in this country. And we can't have constitutional principles like impeachment be altered from the original, thought of the founders. You should not impeach. The Constitution says only for a conviction of treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. It's not anything Congress says. It's not some vague, I think you abused power. You have to have a serious reason to seek to reverse the election returns. And so these are things that worry us. One good thing, though, is that the federal judges that President Trump has appointed understand that. Judge after judge after judge, many of them are just superstar intellectuals with integrity and classical judicial values.
Speaking of the impeachment hearings, the narrative this week has somewhat shifted from quid pro quo to bribery. I'm wondering about your thoughts on that.
Look, one of the great legal scholars of our time, Ken Starr, has just said this is not there. If they couldn't find it to be bribery or extortion or something, they first said, and then bribery, and then back to this and back to that, just shows that they cannot articulate a clear basis for the impeachment. This is the fact. A clear basis for impeachment has not been articulated because it can't be. The facts don't support it. And that's why I think the House really does need to do some soul searching and ask themselves, isn't the moral and right thing to do for a member of Congress who is sworn to follow the Constitution to not go forward with this? I hope that they will do that. Some say it won't happen, that they're committed, and it's going to, the result is already baked in. I hope not. I think we should hold out the possibility that they won't.
In this last few minutes, there's been some early polling which has suggested you are leading the pack, and it's a fairly large pack of candidates who are seeking the Republican nomination for your seat. The Senate seat for which you're seeking to be elected to, again, I should say. Are you encouraged with that polling?
Yes, we're encouraged by that, and but polls are not votes, and we intend to go to the people of Alabama in every corner of this state and take our message and say why I believe that I could contribute more in the next few years, particularly for this state and the values we share.
And finally, if you do secure the Republican nomination, you would go up against, of course, Senator Doug Jones, who I know you have raised a number of concerns about.
Doug Jones is holding that seat in an unusual basis. It's unthinkable, really, that a liberal Democrat should be holding the United States Senate seat for the people of Alabama. This has to end. I believe I can and will defeat him. And just so many votes, like the Kavanaugh vote, that he voted for represents to me proof that he does not share our values. So I think we disagree on a lot of key things, and so we'll be taking our case all the way to November that we need a conservative, traditional Alabama believer in the United States Senate.
Many political analysts have declared Doug Jones the most vulnerable member of the Senate in next year's elections. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, that's probably correct. I don't know the rest of the country, but I think I believe he will be defeated. I'm confident I can do that, and that will be an assurance that we keep our Senate seat a strong voice, not just a potted plant, but a strong, articulate voice for the values of Alabamians.
Former U.S. Attorney General, former U.S. Senator, and now U.S. Senate candidate Jeff Sessions. It was a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
And Capital Journal. We'll be right back.